Alright guys, welcome back. So this would be the last video in this series, and in this video what I would like to do is I would like to add a search functionality to the application. So we're going to have an input field here, and then we can search for any player that we want. So let's get straight into the video, guys. I'm going to head over to Visual Studio Code, and we want to go to the player component.html right here. So we need to add at the top, we need to add that input field, and we can search for players there. So I'm just going to put it in a paragraph tag, and let's put the input field, and let's add some bootstrap classes to it. So let's add the form control class, and let's also add this margin class of 2, and the type I want it to be search type, and we can also add a placeholder, and let's call it search, and I think that's it, guys. If I save it and we look at it in the browser, there's our search field. So right now it's not working. You can clear it with this, but we can search for any value that we want. So what we are going to do is we are going to bind the key up property. So when we type in a value and we press enter, then we're going to call a function to allow us to search for values. So let's bind that input field to a key up property. So I'm going to say key up, and I'm going to set this equal to a function, and let's call that function filter because we want to filter value. But we need a variable to get access to the input field value, and we will need to pass that to the filter function. So let's set a template variable, and let's call it query, for example, and let's pass the query to our filter function. So I'm going to say query.value because I want to pass the value. In the other videos we just pass the query, and in the other part we check the value, but here let's just pass the value to the function. All right, now so we have that function created. Let's create the function in the component the ts file. So here we want to say filter, and we want to pass in a value which is a string, and here we want to do something with that value. So what do we want to do is, let's set, we have an array here that holds the player. Let's set another array, we'll call it filtered players, and it's going to be of type player array, like this one. And right now we're just getting all the players and adding them to this player array, but here we want to filter that dot player array. So I'm going to say this dot filtered player, which is a new one I just created, should be equal to the query that we've passed, or this value. Actually we called it value here, so let's just say value. You can do this with an if else, but I'm going to do it with the conditional operator. So if the value is selected, you want to filter, else you want to add in the other empty player. So let's just do it the easy way, and then we can convert it. So what I'm doing is, if the value here is selected, then you want to filter. So I'm going to say this dot player, right, this players dot filter would be p goes to p dot, we want to filter by the first name, so, and we want to check if it's lowercase, so I can say to lowercase, and then we use the includes method here to add the value, and we also want to check that to lowercase, like this. So if the value is set, then the filter, this will do the filter here, and then we want to set it to this dot filtered players, right? And if not, so else, we want to set this dot player to be equal to the filtered players. So I'm going to say this dot filter players to be this. All right, so this is what our filtered value is doing. And the next thing we need to do is we need to call this we need to call this filter value, this filter method somewhere. And we are calling it here. So let's just test it and see if it works. But here we don't want to use this dot player and assign it to just P. So we want to assign it to this dot player equal to this, and we also want to do this dot filtered, this dot filtered players, and also assign that. All right, and in the component here, instead of using players, we want to use filtered players. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to come back here, and now if I search for Joe, you see I'm getting the filtered players. And if I search for John, you'll see our search functionality is working. So we are just searching by the first name. So if you want to search for Drogba, you just search for DD and you get Drogba. All right. So before I end this video, let me just do the refactor the way I wanted to do it at first. So now we are using an if else, but you can also do it with a conditional operator. So doing it something like if, like this dot filtered players would be equal to, then you check the condition on the value here, and if the value is set, then you want to filter. So I do this dot players dot filter, and I want to filter with the first name. So P goes to P dot first name, and I want to make that go to lowercase and let it include the value dot lowercase, just like this. And else I'm going to use the colon, and we want to say this dot players. All right, I'm going to save this and we're going to try it again. We go back and we search for Joe, it still works. We search for John, not Joe, John, and it works. All right guys, so we've come to the end of this series. We have a nice application with CRUD functionality and search. We can add a new player, we can delete the player, and we can edit the player. I hope you've enjoyed the series of videos and you've learned how to create CRUD application with Angular. If you have any question, you can drop it on the comment section. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you guys.